All right, everybody, it's time to get your final review work. So let's go ahead and give you some helpful hints. And remember, I'm not going ahead and doing any of the problems to completion. I'm simply going ahead and giving you guys some hints for each one of the problems. All right, so number one, what is the value of 4 times 2x minus 7? Most of you already know that to get the value, uh, we'd go ahead and we'd take 4, multiply it to 2x. We'd also take it and multiply it to 7 to get our answer. Number 2, it says write the expression in simplest form. Once again, we're going to look for the like terms, the things that are alike. We have to remember with the like term, it's not only the letter and the number that are together, but the symbol that's in front of them. So we have negative 4x is one like term with positive 2x. And if we look for numbers, we have negative 11 and 7. Number 3 says use the properties of equality to solve. We have to remember with these, whatever they're having us do, we're going to do the opposite to solve. So here we remember that every fraction is a division problem. So the opposite of division will be multiplication. On number 4, we're adding. So we will have to go ahead and subtract a number to go ahead and get our answer. Well, that's what it would appear anyways. But remember, whatever the symbol is in front of the number that you're trying to do is what you're trying to do the opposite of. So if this was written as x minus 6, you say that we were subtracting and not adding. So since x is what we want to leave on one side and the number is what we want to move, whatever is in front of the number is what we have to say it's asking us to do. So in this particular problem, they're asking us to subtract. So we'll do the opposite of subtraction, which is addition. We'd add 6 to both sides to solve. Number 5, once again, the letters here. So what's in front of the number is subtraction. We would add to go ahead and move the 3. And then we see that 2 and x are together. They're multiplying when they do that, which means we would have to divide afterwards to get our answer. Okay, let's move down. Number 6, 4 less than 3 times a number is positive 2. They're asking us to write an expression. So 4 less than 3 times a number. To do less than, we have to remember it has to come after what we're doing at the beginning. So much as this number 5 would be 3 less than 2 times a number equals 5, this is 3 less than 4, or 4 less than 3 times a number is positive 2. Number 7, make a graph that represents a solution for this inequality. Well, first we have to solve the inequality. We don't treat it any different than we do an equation. So once again, we're leaving the letter for last. If we look, we see that we have a negative 6 that we need to move over away from the x. So we'll do the opposite of what it's asking us to do, which is subtract. And then once we do that, we do it to both sides. And then we find out what they're asking us to do here, which is divide. We do the opposite of division, which is a multiplication. We would multiply the number that's in the denominator to both sides in order to find our answer. But let's not forget, when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip our inequality symbol. All right, let's go to number 8. Write an equation to show the angle relationship, then use the properties of inequality to solve. Well, remember that every straight line is 180. Okay? And that means that 4x plus 120 has to equal 180. Now we've made our formula. No different than the formulas over here. Number 9, what is the classification of the triangle by its angles and by its side? When it's asking by its angles, we have to remember uh, there are 3 different classifications of angles. We've got acute, we've got a right angle, we have obtuse. And remember, this is less than 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and more than 90 degrees. Then it says, and by its sides. And the classification of sides that we have are going to be equilateral, which means all 3 sides are the same, isosceles, which means 2 of the sides are the same, and scalene, which means absolutely none of the sides will be the same. Let's go to number 10. Write an equation for the triangle and solve for the value of x. Once again, all the angles of a triangle have to equal 180. What does this mean for you? It means that 30 plus x must equal 180. And I'll let you figure that out. Oops, went a little too far. Number 11, on a map, the scale is 1 inch equals 120 miles, 120 miles. What is the actual distance between the 2 cities if the map distance is 3 and 1/4 inch? Well, we can remember that if for every 1 inch it's 120 miles, and we're taking 3 inches now, I'm sorry, it says between 2 cities if the map distance is 3 and 1/4 inch, 3 and a 4. So first 3 instead of 1. So we have to multiply 120 by 3. But now you're thinking, well, what's 1/4? Well, you'd have to say, what is 1/4 of 120? The other way to do this is remember to turn it into improper fraction. We multiply the denominator times the number in front and then add it to the numerator. Once we've done this, we can go ahead and use KFC. And remember that 120 will be over 1. So that would be 13 over 4 times 1 over 120. All right, let's go to the next one. What is the circumference of the circle? Use 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest 10th. Remember, our formula for the circumference is diameter times pi. What is the area of a circle? Well, once again, we can remember the formula is pi r squared. Remember, pi is in each one of these formulas because the minute we see a circle, we know pi is involved. Okay, and if they ask for circumference, remember that starts with the letter C, and C goes almost all the way around the circle. The minute they ask for the area is what's inside a circle. And we're always finding area in square. So if that's true, we've got pi and area square. We know it's pi r squared. All right, and number 14, what is the area of this figure? Well, first of all, the square is nothing more than length times width. And the area of a circle, once again, is pi r squared. But remember, we have to divide whatever we find the area of the circle of by 2. And since, remember, the area demands that we look for the radius, that the line, how the distance from the center to the outside. So we need to know what the center from the outside of this before we can find the radius of this. Let's move up to number 15. It's asked to refer to this figure. What is the name of this figure? Well, we know that this is a, let's see, it's almost a cube, but it actually is a rectangle. So a rectangular what? You have to figure that out. Identify the base of the figure. Well, one of the bases is on the bottom because we know the base is always like the basement. So that would be, well, let's see here. We've got G, F, H. It looks to me like we're missing something here. Let's bring this to back. There it is, E. So we got E, F, GH is a base, but don't forget the base is also the opposite side of the figure. So I'll let you figure that out. What is the volume of this triangular prism? Well, remember the volume of a rectangular prism is base times height times width. And much like a triangle is half of a square, a triangular prism is half of a rectangular prism. And let's move on. We've got number 18. What is the surface area of this cube? To remember that, we have to remember our formula is 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times width. And if we do that, then we will get our answer. You can also remember when we're dealing with a cube, though, that every side is the length times the width. There's actually 6 sides to a cube. So you could, for a cube, and that's every side being the same, use the formula 2 times length times width. Oh, I'm sorry, it's incorrect. It's not 2 times length times width. That would be length times width times the number of sides. Okay? The number of sides there are. Number 19. Find the volume of this composite figure. Well, this composite figure is a pyramid and a rectangular prism. And we said a rectangular pyramid prism a minute ago was length times width times height. And we can remember that the volume of a pyramid is nothing more than length times width times height divided by 3. Remember when Mr. Meadows in class took a pyramid and when he had a prism that was the same height and had the same base, he was able to fill that prism 3 times with the pyramid. All right? And number 20, a spinner shown is spun once. Find the probability. Write the answer in fraction, in decimal, and percent. Well, find the probability. Write the answer up. Probability for P being a vowel. All right. So if P being a vowel, let's see here. We have 1, 2 vowels. So then that tells you there are 2 chances out of 6. All right. So the fraction form would be 2/6, which can be reduced to 1/3, right? And I'll let you figure out the rest. 2/3 equals what? That's the fraction. Now, what decimal? Okay. And what percent? Answer, what do you get? We've done those in class. Shouldn't have to show you that. A spinner marked with 4 sections, blue, yellow, green, yellow, and red, are spun, was spun X amount of times. How many times is this? Well, we've got 50 plus 12 plus 22. Well, that's going to make 34 and 30. Oh, it looks like 100 times. So let's go ahead and put that in here real quick. 100 times. There we go. It's still wanting to write. There we go. And 100 times. And I apologize. I'll have to go over that in class with you guys because it might not be on your paper if it's not here, right? And we're going to fix this for those that were smart enough to go and watch the video tonight. You'll have that. So that it's going, the result of the tables are shown. Find the experimental probability of landing on green. Experiment means what actually happened, right? So if we're going to go with what actually happened, let's see here, then it means what happened in our test. Find the experimental probability of landing on green. Well, green was 16 out of 100 times. Okay. Let's go to number 22. What would be the total number of outcomes in a sample space for picking a number from 1 to 20 and a letter from the alphabet? Well, we have to remember there's going to be 120 numbers we start with, and each of them go to 26 letters that are in the alphabet. That's going to be 20 times 126. Number 23. A bag contains 6 green marbles and 3 yellow marbles and 4 red marbles. Fred moves 2 marbles without replacement. What is the probability that the first marble will be yellow and the second marble will be green? Well, there's, let's see, the first marble will be yellow. How many marbles are there that are yellow? 3. Okay, but 3 out of what? We've got 6 plus 3 plus 4, and that's going to give us 13. So that's 3 out of 13 is our first one. And then it says, and the second marble will be green. Okay, so we got 1 out of 13, and green is 6 out of 13. So we have to go ahead and combine those numbers in order to get our answer. The double box plot shows the number of calories per serving for various fruits and vegetables. Compare the center of variation to populations. Write an inference you can draw about the two populations. Well, we know that the median, neither one of these are symmetric. The median for the fruit is 125. The median for the vegetables is 100. So they're saying the number of calories. We know the number of calories in fruit are going to be more. Okay, is one inference we can make. And there's about the same variation. Look, 175 minus 75 is probably the same as 150 minus 50. All right. All right. So I hope this gives you helpful hints, and I hope you do well on your final.